Hey, Jungle Explorer here, and today I'm going to be doing a full review of the WingHome 480Ace trail camera. This is a cellular 4G trail camera. It's the first time I've ever done a review of a cellular 4G camera, so it took me a little bit to get used to the whole system, but I spent a whole month testing this baby out for you, and I want to give you a good review of how it did and give you all the important data for it. So this may be a little bit longer than my usual videos for a trail camera because we are dealing with a few more features that aren't available on non-cellular cameras. Okay, guys? So make sure that if you want to just look at a certain area of the video, the samples or something like that, YouTube now has a new feature. It's called chapters, and you can actually put your cursor at the bottom of the YouTube video there, and you can actually see the different chapters, and I'll have them labeled for you, and you can jump to any part you want. That's a cool new feature that YouTube has, and I'm taking advantage of that to save you guys time. All right, guys, so now let's talk about the camera. All right, so man, this is a pretty cool camera, and I was really excited to get it and do this review of it. And so let me just jump right into how I set the camera up originally, and then what the results of the testing was. So the entire testing period for this camera was 1 month, okay? And normally I'll do two weeks, 12 days, something like that, but I needed a full month because here in Texas, if you look on the Google, the horrible winter storm that hit us in February just was a 100-year historically bad storm. I mean, it was a blizzard, and unfortunately 40 people lost their lives. Millions of people went without power and water for days, and this little camera was out in that storm, in that time. So it had a little bit of an effect on the battery life, which is unusual. So I'm going to talk about that in the review, but I had it set out, as I said, for 1 month. I originally set it out to take 3 pictures and 1 video, and I didn't actually put a time delay on it like I normally do. I just basically wanted to see kind of how it worked, so I just let it take pictures and videos whenever something moved in front of it with no delay. And that turned out to be kind of a mistake, which hurt the battery life on it a little bit, and that's why I put a new set of batteries out and put it out for a second period, so I wanted to get a little more consistent results out of it. Okay, so during the first period, I used these batteries right here, which are AC Delco alkaline batteries, and I have never used these batteries before. I'm familiar with AC Delco as a car battery, which it is a top-of-the-line car battery, but never before had I used them in a AA. I ran across them and I thought, man, I want to try those batteries out, so I used these. I didn't get enough data in this testing to tell you how good these batteries are, whether they're as good as a Duracell or an Energizer or, not very good at all. But they do seem to be about as good as your average AA alkaline battery. All right, so in the first 10 days of testing, let's go run through here. I had it set, as I said, take 3 pictures, 1 video, 10 seconds long, whenever the camera was activated. During that testing period, it lasted 10 days. Now, it died when it got down below 0 degrees. So I'm not sure what killed it fully. It could have been the extremely cold weather, or it could have been the fact that there was this one particular hog that decided he was going to eat everything that came out of my feeder. He camped out all night long underneath my feeder, just activating the camera repeatedly all night long. And of course, whenever it was activated at night, it takes, it has to activate the infrared lights that come on. And actually, those use a lot of power. And so, especially when it has to stay on to take the video. And so I saw a pretty strong, in the last 2 days, during the extreme cold weather, before the batteries completely died, I saw an extreme drain there due to the cold and the excessive activating by that one particular hog that just would not leave and just stayed there. Okay, so the batteries died. A couple days later, when the roads became passable, I was able to come to the camera, put some new batteries in, and set it out for a second testing period. And during that second testing period, I turned the video off where it was just taking pictures, and I put a 10-minute timer delay in between the time of activation. So if that hog came back and decided just to camp there, it wasn't going off every 10 seconds, okay? And so let's talk about what I got out of the total testing of the camera, both sets. Okay, so the total testing of the camera, the first, I got a total of 852 pictures in the 1 month period, okay? Because I had a mixture of different settings, and you can change the settings remotely on this, I'm not doing my normal thing of this many pictures, this many videos, because I kind of changed the settings off and on throughout the testing. So I ended up with videos and pictures. Now, the total data size of the 852 pictures and videos was 3.13 gigabytes, which is pretty decent for that amount of pictures. Okay. The image size, let's talk about image size on this. The images range had a big variable range from about 1.1 megabytes to 4.6 megabytes, which I found very interesting, because most cameras, most trail cameras, when they have an image size, it's almost always about the same exact size. Whereas on this camera, and I had it set to the 24 megapixel maximum resolution, the actual size of the images was, very greatly one from the other. And the difference was the nighttime pictures were around 1 megabyte to about 1.6 megabytes, and the daytime pictures were from about 3.5 megabytes to about 4.6 megabytes. So depending on how much light there was, it changed the actual size of the image. And that tells us a great deal about the firmware of the camera, which is that it actually writes the exact size of the data and creates a file. Now, I don't want to hurt your brain in here, but let me just explain to you why that is. Have you ever got a package from Amazon.com which was a big box with something little bitty in it? I, the other day, ordered a gift card for someone who was going through some difficult times, a $100 gift card, and I was going to give it to him. And I got that gift card, and it came in a huge box about this big. I'll show you a picture of it. And actually, the gift card had slid underneath the bottom flap, and I thought the box was empty. Now, sometimes some firmware on cameras, they do the exact same thing. They have a small file, but they only have one file container size, one size of box. So they just throw the little file in the big box, and it takes up the same amount of space as the big box, even though the container only has a little bit of data in it. The firmware on this camera actually makes a box or a container the size of the data of the picture, so it takes up less data size on your card because it customizes the actual box to the size of the data. And that's actually advanced firmware, so that's a really good thing. Okay, so the size of the videos was about the same thing. I had it set for 10 seconds, and every 10-second video, the size ranged from 10 megabytes to 12 megabytes. So that's an average of about 1.1 megabyte per second of video. All right, that's actually a pretty good recording quality for video. It's not too heavy and not too light. And so we'll talk about the actual quality of the videos themselves later when I show the samples. So as I said, the first set of batteries died in 10 days. But the second set of batteries were in there for about 20 days. And after 20 days of only taking pictures, the set of batteries was at 1.29 volts. Now it started out 1.61 volts, and then in 20 days it was down to 1.29 volts. So that's really high battery usage for a trail camera if we were talking about a normal trail camera that doesn't have cellular function. Now, I've done some research and talked to other people that run trail cameras, and how long the batteries last in these things really has to do with how often the antenna has to transmit. Okay, I guess it has to boot up and then transmit. It actually, how often you access the camera, every time this thing has to transmit a signal back to the tower, it uses a lot of battery. So I had this set to what's called instant transmission. As soon as it took a picture, it instantly booted up the cellular camera or antenna, and it transmitted the picture. Some people say that the batteries will last a lot longer if you set it to only transmit the pictures once a day. So it only has to boot the antenna up one time and transmit. I don't know that because I didn't test that out, but I do know that after 20 days, the batteries were down to about 30-40%. So I'm going to say that you could probably get almost a month out of the batteries in this camera, and these are the AC Delcos. I'm going to have to run some other testing with Duracells or Energizer and lithiums and stuff to see about how long they're going to last. Most people that I've talked to that use cellular trail cameras get about a month, 2 weeks to a month on average out of a set of alkaline batteries in them. Some people say that they might get longer if they do the ultra lithiums and stuff like that. I don't know, but it does appear to me, based on people I've talked to and multiple research, that about a month is what you expect to get out of a normal usage on one of these cameras, and that's about what I got out of the set of batteries in here. But I have to take into account the extreme cold weather, and I have to take into account that I had, it set to take long videos and things like that. So how you use the camera greatly affects how long the battery life is. If you set it just to take one picture every 1 hour, it probably could last months. If you set it to just transmit all the pictures from all the activations once a day, that will extend the battery. So, it's definitely, I can say this, after having done all the other tests with all the regular trail cameras that don't have the cellular function, those batteries can last in one of those cameras for months and months, 6-7 months if you want. This thing definitely uses a lot more power than your other cameras, your normal trail cameras. But I basically can say that I have not been able to determine that this is excessively using batteries in comparison to other cellular trail cameras. What I've seen is that it is about equal to those other trail cameras. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump right into the samples. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is first show some pictures here. Now I'm going to show you a picture of this hog that kept coming to my camera at night right there, and there's a nighttime picture. And here is a coyote that came to my feeder just before the snowstorm hit in the daytime. And here is a morning picture right here. Okay, and let me just throw, as I talk here, some more pictures up for you to see. Now, my personal take on the pictures on this camera are they are very good pictures. The color balance is impeccable, just like a DSLR. I mean, the color balance is great. That's one problem I've had with a lot of cameras, trail cameras, is the color balance, the white balance on it is just horrible. Some are blue, some are red, and stuff like that. This camera has really good white balance that really predicts and shoots really good pictures. The clarity is great on that. The speed of the pictures are really good. I'll throw some pictures of some birds that were caught in mid-flight, so that works really good there. So I'm really satisfied with the quality of the pictures of this camera. It takes great pictures. Now let's go ahead and do some videos. All right, so here's a video of that hog that kept coming. Okay, and now here's that coyote in the daytime. All right, so the video, I believe, daytime and nighttime is superb on this camera, as good or better than any other camera that I have used. They're totally good. You know, I have no complaints about the video or the videos day or night on this camera. And actually, I'm surprised about how good they are compared to how small the actual file is. You would expect to be a lot more data there, but it's not. It's really good. All right, let's talk about detection. Okay, the camera has great detection. It really picks things up. Now, I had it set to high, and buddy, I'm going to tell you what, this camera picks up everything on the high setting. I mean, even a mouse running across the ground, it picks it up. Okay, and I wanted to see how good the detection was on high and see how many false positives that I got. Now, I can't really give you a conclusive statement on false positives where, let's say, the camera was activated by a motion other than a living being, like an animal or something, a bird, a big animal, a mouse, or something like that. One of the reasons I can't give you that detection is that the actual sensor, I believe, is just slightly outside the field of view of the camera. I noticed that I caught a lot of animals right on the edge of the detection zone. So I'll throw some up where you see like there's just the tail of a skunk or the ear of a coyote right on the border of the detection zone. So if the camera's really fast, whenever something's coming in, it immediately activates and it catches them before they fully get into the actual field of view of the actual lens of the camera. So that's kind of something that was like, I wish it would just kind of wait a little bit. But that just tells you that the camera does work really good. Now, I'm going to encourage you to set it to take 3 pictures, because that first one, you're just going to get the nose of the animal. So as it's coming in, you want to take those 3 pictures, because the first one's going to be right on the border, and then the other ones will be in the field of view. If I was just set it to take 1 picture, then it's a possibility that I'm just going to get a tip of something. Now, there were several pictures that it took that I couldn't find anything in the picture that I could see that was living. Some of them I had to really zoom in on and found that there was a bird somewhere on a tree branch. But what I can tell you is that the camera does not take a lot of false positives. That you may not see what moved in front of it, but it was an animal of some kind. Could have been a bird flying through, a mouse running through, especially at high detection. And that was actually really good. Now, this is the real telltale right here on this. During the blizzard, it continued to take pictures all the way down until the batteries died. Okay, and I will talk about that a little bit later. But I'm going to show you some pictures here from the middle of the blizzard where the snow is literally blowing horizontally across the front of the camera. Now, that's a lot of motion, and you would think that actually would set the camera off, but it didn't. Okay, because every picture that was taken during the blizzard, even though the trees were waving around, snow's blowing in front of it, had an animal in the picture. There were rabbits there in the picture, so it was not being set off by all this motion, the snow blowing around it, the wind, and all those things were not activating the camera. It was actually the little rabbits that were coming that was activating the camera, and that was really impressive. Okay, now I'm not going to say there were no false positives. I did detect a couple of false positives that were caused by the actual tree that this was tied to actually swaying in the wind because of the violent wind, and it was actually moving the camera, and that did set the camera off without any animals in there, but it was very rare that it did it. And even though the weather has been horrible with lots of movement, it really did a very good job of only taking pictures of animals, and I was very impressed by that. Okay, now let's talk about the infrared lights. This has a setting on the camera for auto. I didn't really understand what that meant until I actually reviewed the video. So I left it set to auto. And let me throw a video up here. And if you'll watch the video carefully, you'll see that it starts out kind of dark and then brightens up. And what the camera is doing is trying to sense how much light it needs to to produce. So if it needs a lot of light, it adjusts the brightness of the infrared lights up from low to high if it needs more. You know, if you've used a lot of trail cams, sometimes there'll be an animal real close to the camera, and because the lights are set to a single brightness, that animal will just be blown out and look white. But this camera actually, if that happens, it dims the lights down so that it doesn't blow the camera out. And that's what it doesn't blow the picture out or the animal out, so it's just overexposed. This one doesn't do that. So I'm going to show you a picture of a hog that was really close in front of the camera, and it dimmed it down so that it wasn't just a white animal. So here's that video. Okay, so that is what the auto setting does, and it works quite good. And you can actually see that in that video where it starts out dark and then it brightens up if something's in there. So it kind of senses that. Okay, so let's talk about the thumbnails that the camera sends you whenever it takes a picture of something. Okay, now it doesn't matter if you have it set to take 3 pictures. It's not going to send you 3 pictures. It's going to send you 1 picture. Okay. The very first picture it takes is going to send you. The other 2 it's not going to send you a sample of. And if you have it set to video, it's not going to send you that either. Okay, it's not going to. It does not send videos. It just sends 1 sample image of each activation. Okay, the actual size of the images is around 40 kilobytes for the thumbnail option. Now it does have the 5 megapixel option, but honestly, the thumbnails are such high quality and, you know, good quality as far as looking at it. There's just no reason to go to the 5 megapixel option. You're just going to use more data from your data plan without getting a much better picture. Okay, because the thumbnails are plenty good enough to see everything you need to see. All right. Now let's talk about the data plan. Now, when I first got the camera, I didn't really understand how much data it was going to use to transmit to me, so I went ahead and signed up for the $6.99 100 megabyte 30-day plan. And after using it for a month, there's no reason to sign up for that plan, guys, because even though I had the camera set to take, you know, a bunch of pictures and all that stuff, it only sends you 1 thumbnail for every activation, and it's only 42 kilobytes. After I had this thing set to basically take pictures whenever something moved in front of it with no delay, after a month, I was only down to like 75 megabytes. I'm not going to use anything but the $4.99 plan, which is the 50 megabyte 30-day plan, because I don't know how you could possibly use 100 megabytes with this thing. So I think that the actual way it works is really good. It's very functional and it's very economic. All right, so let me talk about the smartphone app here. Okay, it's very functional on this cam. I mean, it has a lot of stuff and it works. I didn't have any flaws or any glitches with the smartphone app. You can do just about anything you want with it, and it works really well. So, you got your menu system right here. You can look at your camera. One thing that I really loved, and this was especially during the storm, is the camera status, which will show you the battery level, the signal level, and the temperature. And so during that horrible blizzard, I was able to see what the temperature was at my place because I was out of town during that storm. And so I could tell the temperature, all that stuff. It really shows you everything on your camera, even though you're not there. And being able to adjust the camera settings without having to go to your camera, you can adjust everything right here. Gives you all maximum flexibility. That is really cool there too. So you have all these options, and the camera works really good here. Here's your data stuff here. Shows you how much data, and this is on the second plan with the 50 megabytes. After about a week, you can see there I've only used like 1.2 megabytes of data on there. So after about a week of time, so even that's way too much data for how I use the camera. Which is, I get a lot of pictures sent to me. And if you want to take a photo, you can actually just take a photo like right now and send a command, and it'll take a photo anytime you want to. But I thought I was going to catch the camera like, oh, there might be an animal there and the camera's not taking a picture. So every now and then I would take a photo at a time of the day when I thought that there might be something in front of the camera, and it hadn't taken a picture, and not once did I catch an animal there that the camera had not detected. So I never caught the camera in a gotcha moment there. All right, so the app works really good. And one of the cool things about the app is that I actually installed the Knox player on my laptop, and I was able to download the app and use it on my laptop on a much bigger screen. So it worked fine with the Knox emulator, Android emulator on my laptop, and so you can use it on your phone and your laptop. All right, guys, so let's just sum it all up here, okay? I've talked about a lot of different things. The camera works good. It did what it's supposed to do. It's economic to use. As far as battery life, I can't tell that it uses batteries any more excessively than any other 4G cellular camera out there. I might update this later with more testing, but so far I think it's on par with what other cameras do. It's actually cool looking, and you got to take in consideration this thing survived the worst blizzard in Texas history and came out unscathed and still works just fine. Now that's got to be some big brownie points right there. You know what I'm saying? That it survived the storm. A lot of people complain about their trail cameras dying in cold weather. This thing was operating in the middle of the storm during the blizzard while the temperature was dropping. The only reason it stopped functioning was because the batteries died. Okay? And so, you know, that is something that was very impressive to me. So it survived the worst blizzard in the last 100 years in Texas with no problems. Other than that, there's not much to say about it. It works good. It's economic to use. It takes great pictures, and it takes great videos. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have, please like, subscribe, and comment. Remember, I will throw a link to this product in the description of the video. Until next time, this is the Jungle Explorer, signing out.